Okay, so this is the part 2 of muscle notes, talking about the types of muscles and also the effects of exercise. Okay, so when a muscle contracts, activity reaches usually about 70% of the maximum. And this means that the bulging muscles will compress blood vessels, oxygen delivery will be impaired because of this, and then pyruvic acid is converted to lactic acid. The lactic acid then diffuses into the bloodstream and is picked up and used as fuel by the liver, kidneys, and heart. So, again, this is about 70% of what it can do at a maximum. So, muscle fatigue is when the muscle is in a state of physiological inability to contract. So, it can no longer contract anymore. And this occurs for a few reasons. One of which is that because the ATP production fails to keep pace with the ATP use. And that means you're not making enough ATP for your muscles to contract anymore. So there's a relative deficit of ATP. Lactic acid is also building up inside the muscle, and this is causing ionic imbalances that is leading to muscles fatigue and them not being able to contract anymore. Oxygen debt. So, whenever you're vigorously exercising, this can cause dramatic changes in muscle chemistry. For a muscle to be able to return to its resting state, you have to replenish it with oxygen. That lactic acid has to be converted back to pyruvic acid. So remember, it's built up and accumulated in the muscle. Glycogen stores must be replaced, and glycogen is what the cells use to make glucose, which helps fuel the muscles. And then ATP and CP reserves must be resynthesized. So basically, if you are working out extremely hard, it might take even a few days for this to happen. In the meantime, you're going to have very sore muscles, and your muscles are just going to feel very fatigued and tired for a while until all these things happen again. So aerobic exercise means that oxygen is present. And so if you do aerobic exercise, and this is like running, jogging, swimming, your number of muscle capillaries increases, the number of mitochondria within each cell increases, and myoglobin synthesis increases. Resistance exercise, so this is lifting weights, is typically anaerobic or without oxygen and results in what's called muscle hypertrophy, which is muscle building. And you also increase the mitochondria, myofilaments, and glycogen stores. The overload principle is when you force a muscle to work and therefore it promotes increased muscular strength. So no matter what you do, no matter workout you do, if you don't keep challenging your muscles, eventually your muscles are going to adapt to those increased demands. And you're going to build muscle and you're going to become more efficient at that exercise. But if you don't keep overloading or pushing your muscles, they'll stay at that same level. So they must be overloaded in order to produce further gains. The cardiac muscle, so this is only found in the heart, nowhere else, and is characterized by a few things. One, it is also striated like skeletal muscle was, but it's not voluntary, so you cannot control whether or not your heart beats or not by thinking about it. It's supposed to contract at a fairly steady rate and set by an internal heart's pacemaker. And there are neural controls that allow the heart to respond to changes in bodily needs. For example, if you were scared and you were running, your heart is going to need to start pumping a lot more quickly to fuel your muscles with oxygen so that if you needed to run for your life, your heart would be ready to do so. So it can respond pretty quickly. And the other thing it has are what are called these intercalated discs. Okay, so those little dark bands, and you'll see them kind of throughout. That is unique to cardiac muscle, and it's helping to link the cardiac cells together, and this helps them all beat as one. Okay, smooth muscle is found in the walls of hollow organs, such as the stomach, bladder, respiratory passages. And it is specialized to help force food and other substances through these channels through peristalsis. It is not striated, which is why it's called smooth muscle, and it's involuntary. And it also lacks the coarse connective tissue that skeletal muscle has, but it does have a fine endomysium. So a smooth muscle is organized into two layers. You got a longitudinal and a circular layer, and they are composed of closely opposed fibers. And these are essential to have. They have basically the same contractile ability that skeletal muscle has, except they're just doing it in more of a smooth, wave-like manner to help push food through your intestines or through your stomach or wherever. So smooth muscle is unique in that it has a smooth muscle tone. It has long, slow, prolonged contractile activity, has very low energy requirements, and it responds to stretch. So you can, after, big Christmas or Thanksgiving dinner, long after you've stopped eating, your digestive system is still working, and it can work for hours upon hours upon hours to help move that food through your digestive system, and it doesn't tire. And then also responds to stretch. So when your stomach gets stretched out with food, it signals that you have something there, and it's time to start digesting. The smooth muscle exhibits this stress relaxation response. So smooth muscle will respond to stretch only briefly and then adapts to its new length. This new length, however, retains its ability to contract. So this enables organs like the stomach and the bladder to be able to stretch, to hold large amounts of food or urine, and still be able to function. It can still contract. It can still do all the things that it needs to do.